Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for the newest edition of Top 5, the series where I talk about compilations, because that's just the way it is. This series isn't exclusively for Monstercat compilations, but that tends to be just how it works out, and today we're going to be talking about their second Uncaged compilation. This compilation is a bit of a weird one for a number of different reasons, the primary one being that it contains singles that were released both before and after the last Monstercat compilation, Monstercat X Rocket League Volume 1. And because of that large release gap, there are a number of artists that have multiple tracks featured on this album. Notably Grant, Kuro, Gammer, and Reach, as well as Riot, who seems to have kind of replaced the Pegboard Nerds as Monstercat's go-to bro step duo, which I'm honestly okay with because I prefer the Pegboard Nerds' more experimental content over their recent bro step any day. But then the crazy one that everyone seems to be taking note of is Kuro. Dude's got 4 tracks on this album, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think that's a new record for most tracks any artist has ever put out on a single compilation. I'm not going to make any specific comments about Kuro's tracks in this video just because I want to save that for when I eventually do review his Connecting the Dots EP. I'm planning on reviewing that and Drop Text Fragments EP in a combined video just like I did with Muzzy and Doomu a few months back. But I think 4 tracks on one compilation is just a little bit too much. I would have greatly preferred seeing Stonebank's remix of Cold Skin or Virtual Riot's remix of Talk About It over us literally getting half of the Connecting the Dots EP on this compilation. It's just a little bit crazy, but that's just really a small nitpick in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, I think this compilation is really good. Unlike Uncaged V1, I had an extremely hard time trying to pick out my favorite 5 from this album. I liked most of the songs on this album. In fact, there were only 1 or 2 songs that I'd really say I disliked. One song in particular on this compilation especially grinds my gears, and while I do want to talk about this song at some point, I'd rather kind of wait to reveal that until this artist releases an EP or an album so that I can finally call them out for all their wrongdoings. Anyway though, the rest of the album was honestly pretty solid, and without further ado, let's get into my top 5. As always, these are in no particular order, and we'll be starting off the top 5 with Kaizo and Gammer featuring August, Over the Edge. You know, back in the day I wasn't much of a Kaizo fan, but his Monstercat releases have really pushed me over the edge, no pun intended. And this one really for an entirely different reason than This Time, a track that I really love just for its absolute wild and craziness. Though I'd like to say that this song completely caught me off guard, I'm actually pretty sure I guessed that this was Kaizo and Gammer when I had heard it as the mystery track. I'll have to find some proof there for that. But regardless, this is actually a pretty cool track and something I'm definitely not used to seeing from Kaizo or Gammer, kind of with the little bit of a softer housey instrumental and then kind of with a little bit of an off-kilter bounce drop. Although I can see why the drop would feel really out of taste for a lot of listeners, I personally enjoyed it a lot, especially with that really catchy vocal chop. My favorite part about this song was probably those really soulful vocals from August, someone I'm definitely going to have to look out for. His performance really floored me on this song. Although Over the Edge might not be the most crazy or complex song on this compilation, I liked it enough and it was good enough for my top 5. Although next time we see Kaizo and Gammer work together on a Monstercat release, I would like it to be a little bit more wild and crazy, kind of like Frequency was. That's all I'm gonna say. Up next, we have Discovery by Orbiter. I don't really know what to say about this song that I didn't already cover in my Orbiter EP review. I personally like that EP a lot, and I think even if they featured We Do on the compilation instead of Discovery, it probably still would have made my top 5 just because it was such a well-rounded EP. But on the other hand, I'm really very glad that Discovery was the one to make the cut for this compilation. It's probably my favorite song that either Stephen Walking or 7 Minutes Dead have ever worked on. It's got that kind of same retro analog sound that we saw in Want You, but in my opinion Orbiter really improved it with this song. It's quite a bit bouncier, it definitely has more of a slow punch to the gut feel than Want You does. Kind of backed up by a little bit more of a wacky future bass beat. Just a really enjoyable song, and yeah, it does feel a little bit weird kind of seeing Discovery next to all these other songs, mainly because they really felt like singles. Most of the other songs on this compilation, this one really, I feel like, finds its place on the Orbiter EP, but regardless, it's still really enjoyable, and I love it to death. Like, it's so good. Next up, we have the newest Dion Timmer single, Till I Make It, featuring Tima D. I think a lot of people really felt the impact of this song pretty hard, just because they had come to expect Dion Timmer's music to kind of be that hard brand of bro step with his little neon sounds. Till I Make It, though it's probably Timmer's most most poppy sounding single to date. I could definitely see this song fitting very snug alongside a lot of the EDM songs hitting radio waves right now. Honestly, in my opinion, puts Timur way above his superiors like Datsik and Excision with a much more mature sound. I personally don't have a ton of experience with this vein of melodic dubstep, but all I know is I'd really like to see more of it, especially coming from Dion Timur. But if I know Dion Timur at all, and I do, I know he's just going to keep doing his thing and you know, doing whatever he wants, and he's going to sound good while he does it. It's just I happen to like this song above all the other ones. And up next we have Possession by Kuro. Whether it be in my coverage of Uncaged Volume 1 or my feature on the MC Reviews podcast, I've spoken my issues with Kuro pretty loudly at this point, but I'll just go ahead and say it. I felt like a total moron when I found out that Juventa, one of my favorite electro house producers in the game over the last few years, is one half of Kuro. I mean, it makes sense considering one of Juventa's key attributes is his sound design, and Kuro's is also kind of that, but I never expected this announcement to happen, and like I said, I felt like a total idiot when they made the announcement. Thankfully, I think that Possession is by far the best song that they put together as a duo. Although the drop does make Possession sound almost like a Moombaton edit of Skrillex's Red Lips remix, this song is just absolutely epic. The intro portion of the song really builds this dark, tense atmosphere that transitions perfectly into a drop that I think any crowd would go absolutely ham over. And that's all I've got to say about that. Last up, we have a track that seems to have topped Swapping Things as my favorite Monstercat release of 2017, Are We Still Young by Grant. Out of the triarchy of Grant and Jesse Mason songs, and might I remind you that all of them so far have featured in my top 5 series, this one has to be the best. While I feel like the song's major highlight is its combination of both the experimental and melodic sides of EDM, kind of using those really wacky vocal chops and then also having that really melodic second drop, just a really interesting song all around. I also really liked how the song tended to tell a story. Jessie Mason kind of takes listeners through this journey of her losing her childhood innocence, starting off with the more dreamy lyrics about cotton candy and fireflies, then transitioning into more adult themes like the horrors of heartbreak and learning not to trust people with good intentions. I also really liked how Grant put these sample sounds of children playing both in the beginning and the end of the track. I felt like that really pushed across kind of the overall feel of the track as well as the lyrics that Jessie was trying to push with it. And overall, this track is just really awesome. I've never seen a track kind of been taken this way in its production stance, and this further cements Grant as one of Monstercat's best artists by far. If you're not a big fan of this song, like with Swapping Things, I would strongly encourage you to reevaluate it coming from my stance, and I think you'll find a little bit more enjoyment in it. I personally love the song a lot. Like I said, favorite release of Monstercat in 2017 thus far, and by far my favorite Grant track as well. And yeah, that's about all I have to say for this week's edition of Top 5. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can check the Spotify link in the description if you want to check out the full album for yourself. I will also have my Your EDM written version of this video available in the description below, and make sure to let me know what your favorite 5 tracks, or maybe just favorite track, whatever you like, are down in the comment section below. I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you later. Peace.